Hi, I'm Mike Davis, owner of Extra Mile Technology Services, and this is your annual cybersecurity awareness training. Now, if you only remember one thing from this entire presentation, remember, if an auditor ever asks you if you received your annual cybersecurity awareness training, you answer yes. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dig in. So, this year has been dubbed the golden age of ransomware. Okay, criminals have got this down to an art, and it has turned into a $20 billion a year industry. Malware attacks through email are up 600% this year. So with that said, we're going to focus a bit on email attack vectors because that's the most likely way they're going to get through. It's not so much through the firewall or some of those other things that we think about when we think about network security. It's through people like you. So a lot of people ask me, well, what does a ransomware attack look like? Well, you come into the office, you go to open up one of your files, and you can't. And then you look through the folder and you see a readme.txt file or something along those lines. And it reads like the one in this example, basically telling you that all of your stuff is encrypted, and if you ever want to see it again, you're going to have to pay a ransom. And oh, by the way, they've taken some files off your network, and they're going to release them to the public and try to embarrass you if you don't pay the ransom. So even if you have good backups, it doesn't matter. They're still going to try to blackmail you and get some money out of you. So what we're going to do today is we're going to show you some examples of some fake emails and scams so that you don't get tricked. Now, in the picture on the screen, these two things of yogurt look a lot alike, especially early in the morning when you're half awake. But if you look really closely, one of the yellow bands says plain and the other one says vanilla. Okay, now, once you know that, it should be fairly obvious that one of them tastes delightfully like vanilla and the other one doesn't. But until you can spot that, you might have a sour morning. So, what's a scam recipe? Now, if you understand this, it's very easy to spot a scam. Okay? This is the recipe going back thousands of years for a scam. You make it look urgent, important, and then to a varying degree, somewhat easy to complete the transaction. Okay? That's the recipe. All right. Now, how are they going to attack you? Email, phone, website, the stuff that you'd probably expect. And they either want to get your money or pretend to be you so they can get somebody else's money. Okay? That's all after, pure and simple. Now, since emails, the 60% of the attacks are going to come through email, let's take a look at an example. Okay, now in this example here, if we just start at the top, if we look real close at the from address, the friendly name says human resources, but the real address is some bogus address. Okay, they used a generic greeting. If we were to take a second and hover over the link in the email, we'd see it goes off to some obscure site. And then at the end of the email, they use kind of a generic closing to it. It doesn't have somebody's name that you recognize from inside the company or not. Now, another thing I'll point out here, for some companies, what we've done is any email originating from the outside, we put a big yellow box in it saying, caution, this email originated externally, be careful opening links and all that. If we haven't done that for your organization and you want us to, let us know, but we do have to do it for the whole organization, not just individual mailboxes. So let us know on that. This one, another example, they're preying on that urgent and important piece. They're making it look like you've got some important emails that are hanging out there, and for some reason they couldn't make it through, and all you got to do is click the link. Now, what's going to happen when you click the link? Well, hold on here. Slow down. wait a minute. Just hover over that link before clicking on it, and you'll see it's going to take you to some obscure website that has nothing to do with Office 365. All right. So you don't want to click that link. Okay. Now, let's say in a moment of weakness, you click the link. All right. It'd take you out to this page. Okay. Now, at this point, you should be pumping the brakes. Okay. Because this is clearly not Office 365. The logo looks right, but the address at the top is way off. And in fact, Chrome was kind enough to warn us that, hey, we've seen some suspicious activity with this domain. So, don't go any further here, okay? Now, you can't rely on Chrome and Edge to do that every time, but they are getting better at it. Okay? Now, in this example, again, they're preying on the urgent and important thing. These ones are really popular during the Christmas shopping season, the lost package thing. But, hey, that works good any time of the year, right? So they're just doing whatever they can to get you to click that link and put in your credentials, and then they promise to reverse the charges or whatever, but it's a scam. And you can tell by hovering over the link. You don't have to click it, just hover over it, and if you look down at the bottom there, you'll see it's not walmart.com, it's some other crazy site. We're seeing less and less of these, the cases where they'll hack a friend's email or a friend's Facebook account and then send you a message like this telling that they lost their passport and checkbook and credit cards and they need some money. But still out there, so just watch out for them. Now, these ones, we're seeing a fair amount of these where it says that you've got either some money coming to you or an invoice or something, and there's no real details in the email that's just driving you to click that attachment. Now, this one here, if you look at the attachment, it ends in a .iso. That's the what you'd use for making like a virtual CD-ROM. And of course, this thing's loaded up with malware. It'll look like a PDF, but when you double click, it'll run some stuff and take over your computer. Okay, so those are the generic phishing attempts. And by the way, I should take a moment and point out, if you're one of our managed clients, we're running phishing campaigns against you. I know it's awful that we would try to trick you, but when we saw that these phishing attempts were up 600% this year, we said, man, we got to help out our clients and just practice not clicking suspicious links and all that stuff and crafting some phony phishing emails and making sure that people are aware. Okay. Now, spear phishing is where the attackers aren't just casting a wide net. They're going after a specific person or a specific company. So in this example here, if we look at this email, they're pretending to be Heather, and then they're emailing other people in the company. We call this a CEO fraud. And if you look in the message preview on the left, looks like Heather, okay? But if you look at the email over on the right where it gives you the full email address, you can see that's not Heather's email address. And again, they're just giving you a little bit of information in the message body, driving you to double click that attachment, which of course is infected with malware. Now in this example, this email looks like a normal email from the accountant to the president, okay? They're using their first names and all that, so the to and the from, no suspicion there. The grammar and misspellings and all that stuff, everything looks good there. And email addresses look okay. But if we look really close, there's an extra L in Beardsley. Okay. All right. What's the attachment? Well, the attachment is just a invoice asking for a $42,000 wire transfer. Okay. Let's circle back to that Beardsley thing. How'd they pull that off? Well, someone actually registered that domain name. So these attackers are looking at your domain name and then going out and buying a similar domain name, probably with somebody else's money, since they're criminals, right? So what did this hacker do here? What all went on there? Well, he spent the time to learn the names, nicknames, and email addresses of people in the company, what their positions were, and then went to the trouble of registering a domain name so that he could email from a similar domain name. Okay? So that's a fair amount of effort. But remember, he was looking for $42,000. If he's successful a couple of times a year, he's doing really well, because let's face it, he's not paying taxes, right? And he's probably in a third world country, and that money goes a long way there, right? Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about email stuff. You can expect 3-4 times a year we're going to run a campaign against you if you're one of our managed customers, just to keep you on your toes, all right? Now, these things here, these pop-ups, okay? Now, these are coming up out of your system tray, and we get calls about these quite often recently. And the call will come in, and they'll say, hey, I think my computer's infected, or I think there's a problem with our antivirus, or whatever, and we're like, we can monitor it. We're not seeing anything on our end. So we'll connect to the computer, and we'll see this. Now, if you look real close, it says via overheadthrough.info, and you're like, wait, what? It's not a system message at all. What happened was you were on a website like this, and the website popped up a message saying, do you want to allow system notifications from this site? And you hit yes. Okay. And sometimes they disguise that pop up a little bit, but generally that's what happens. Okay. So first off, you typically land on these sites, these questionable sites, from other sites where they buy ads. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that in a second. Just know that when you do hit allow, next thing you know, you can have a pop-up that looks like this that may even have the name of a legit antivirus company in it. But if you click that link, you're not going to the real site. You're going off to some other fake AV site. Okay. Now, speaking of fake websites, all of these websites you see on the list here were registered within the first couple of weeks after the coronavirus outbreak. Okay. So these bad actors are taking advantage of current events to try to trick you into going to their bad sites. And even Google is vulnerable to attacks like this. And this one here, the second listing, if you Google Chrome, was a Chrome browser that was infected with malware. And the way the hackers got you to download it is they paid for the keyword Chrome and pushed their listing up to the top of the Google search. Now, we talked about these obscure websites that trick you into allowing alerts and all that, and how do they even get you there in the first place? Well, what we're seeing is they're buying ads on legit sites. So this looks kind of like a normal Facebook ad, okay? And even at the bottom it says Us Daily, right? But if you take a second, hover over it, you can see that it's going out to CaitlinRobertson.com/something. Okay, that's not legit at all. Now, again, what would happen if you click this link? Oh my, look at that. Looks like the blue screen of death. Except it's not. If you look at the top, It's just running in a web browser, okay? And the tricky thing there is right on the screen, they've got a number for you to call, okay? A 1-800 number for you to call. And I can tell you what's going to happen if you call the number. They're going to say that their Microsoft engineers are going to clean up your computer and, oh my, that's a bad infection and you're going to need to pay us $300 or $2,000. Whatever they think they can bilk out of you, they will. And it works because if you're working from home and you call a coworker and say, hey, I've got a blue screen on my computer, like the whole screen is blue and it's got some weird error message on it, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's the blue screen of death. I remember that. And then, yeah, game over. Unless you call your IT company, like Extra Mile, and if you call us, we'll remote in and in 2 seconds we'll have it closed down and there was no infection. It was just a crafty web page. Now, the phone scams, if there was anything good to have come out of the car warranty scams, it's that people are really, really wary of anyone calling up saying that they got to buy something and all that. Look, no, Microsoft is not going to call you and say that your computer's sending out errors and you need to let them on to fix your computer. That's not going to happen. So, yeah. Don't even, just hang up the phone. Don't even play on the phone with them. It's just not worth it. So in summary, when you get an email with links in it, just slow down, hover over them, check them out, see if they seem legit. If you get an email with an attachment that you weren't expecting, or something that just seems really odd, or somebody wants to make changes to a wire transfer that you've done in the past, or it's a totally new wire transfer or something like that, just pick up the phone. Contact them through another means other than email and double check and make sure that they intended to make those changes. Now this last thing, we didn't really touch on it because we've got a whole nother video dedicated to it, but a lot of this stuff can be mitigated by using a password manager, okay? Because a password manager knows what site it's feeding the password into, and if you go to some rogue site, it's not going to automatically fill your credentials in. The other thing the password manager is going to do for you, and this is the biggest thing, is it's going to allow you to use a really complex and unique password for every site. And that's a big deal. Right at the end of 2021, with LastPass, a lot of people were suspecting that LastPass was hacked. Turns out attackers were using passwords from up to 5 years ago where people had used the same password on another site that got compromised as their LastPass password and were able to get into their LastPass accounts. And that all could have been prevented by using a unique password for each site. Now, if you're an Extra Mile client, new for 2022, if you don't already have a password manager in place, we're going to be rolling out a password manager for you, and it'll also allow us to share passwords with you. So if you haven't received that already, just watch for that video and reach out to us. If you're one of our clients and you've got questions for us, just email helpdesk@extramile-tech.com or call us at 315-294-0262. If you're not one of our clients, feel free to give us a call and we'll talk about your IT needs. Thank you.